and welcome to Matt Reads Manga. And joined today, Jimmy is back from Dudes Talking Manga. Jimmy, how are we doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Always happy to talk about some One Piece with you, man. I've been waiting about 2 or 3 months now to continue my journey. I'm about to read Post War, so I'm a little ahead of you. But looking back, thinking about Skypiea and Long Ring Long Land, it's kind of insane from where I'm at, even that is only halfway caught up. I think looking back at these arcs and realizing things that were laid down as foreshadowing or building blocks. You're about to go on a spree after this that I am very envious of. Experience.
That's what I've been told. Everyone says, "Oh man, once you hit like Water 7, Enos Lobby is when it's just like,
oh
everyone's like, it just gets so." Yeah, so Jimmy was on. We did an Alabasta arc review saga. Actually, we kind of covered the whole saga, and normally I've been doing these reviews of each arc, but I had a baby. Wife and I had a baby, so why I haven't posted in a bit, and just made this whole thing kind of easier for. I was like, you know what, let me just grab Jimmy and we can just do Long Ring Long Land, which actually I have to say feels like every time I go look up how people think about arcs, I feel like I always immediately get people being like, I didn't like it, XYZ, I didn't like it, and then I always get to it, I'm like, wow, actually I kind of did like it, yeah. I mean,
Long Ring Long Land, I feel firmly that it's not just important but also great, because like the elements of it that are like really good in other arcs maybe aren't as the best. Like the fighting's not the best in it. Some of the surprises are pretty good, but it's not like the most complex arc, right? Like it does a couple things. The pacing, like the little little race thing takes a little too long, but thematically, like when you look back and you finish the saga and you look back at Long Ring Long Land, you're like, oh, it was all like he was giving us a lot of stuff to consider going into these events that are major. So like I think Long Ring Long Land is like I called it a prologue of sorts. And that's kind of how I treated it. And it's extremely good when you think about all the themes that get explored throughout the saga. So I love Long Ring Long Land, dude. It's great. Also has great humor too. There's some really funny stuff.
Yeah, and for me, because you are only reading, I am reading and watching. And so when I hit Skypiea, when I left Skypiea in the anime and both the manga, I was kind of like, it was cool, it was fun, but it just felt like such a departure from everything that we'd been doing. Now that we jump back in, it feels like now it makes Skypiea feel even more sort of disconnected. I think it's just because it takes place in the sky, right? And it's like,
it's a totally different realm. It's very like it's a culture shock in many ways, because I mean the whole process up there is totally different than what we're used to. But did you find it interesting that in Long Ring Long Land you hear about what's his name, Davy Jones, is that his name, the guy who's on the bottom of the sea? And I said this in my video when I did it. It's like, interesting, we went above ground and now we might go below the sea. Like in my mind, I'm like, well, we're 100% going to the sea floor, and I don't know if it hasn't happened to where I'm at yet, but I assume we will have to, because that just feels like an Oda thing. He does like the opposite thing a lot,
right?
So
they did do a little bit of diving in Skypiea. I remember when they were in like the barrel suits. I thought that was
right. Oh man, the barrel suits are sick. I forgot about those.
Well, it's just like it just fits in so well to like what he's, and I think like they're even, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, I think it's like they're still wearing there's like regular like pants or whatever, and they just have like these barrels, it's like it just works with the world building and everything that he did. So this, I will say, the jump for me from doing the anime jump, like I have to say this is the most Long Ring Long Land is the most disappointed I've been in the anime.
Yeah, it sounds like there's changes that isn't just filler, right?
Reading wise, I think like manga wise, it's amazing. It's excellent. The anime does, like, it's kind of weird because it does do a few things that I like more because it extends the fight. They actually have like an entire other round of fighting. They do like another full set of rounds, but then it jumps like, so where, and we're talking about the whole arc here. So where Long Ring Long Land ends in the manga, basically Luffy beats Foxy, he takes his flag, and then they immediately run into Admiral Akoji,
Yeah.
right? And they immediately fight him. In the anime, it stops after Luffy like takes their flag, like after the Davy back is over, and they decide who they're gonna pick and what they're gonna do. So they do that. Then there's an entire other arc called Ocean's Dream, which it's just okay. It's kind of like an amnesia arc. It's like as filler as
I hate
Rainbow Mist and all the other
amnesia
stuff. The only cool thing about Ocean's Dream is that they actually made a PlayStation 1 game like back in the day that's like based entirely on Ocean's Dream. It's like I think it only released in Japan, and then so there's a Japanese PlayStation 1 game called One Piece Ocean's Dream. And then I believe I was looking it up, they also remade it for the Game Boy Advance. They did a Game Boy Advance version of it a few years later. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, PlayStation 1 games, back in the day. But it was also only released in Japan. So anyway, then we jump into like let me see exactly what this arc is even called, because so Foxy's Return arc is what it is, and it's like 4 episodes in which they run back into Foxy and fight him again, and then Akoji shows up and then they fight him. So that's why because I had messaged you about it, because I'm always like messaging you. Well,
yeah, you're like, I finished Long Ring Long Land. I'm like, oh yeah, so what'd you think of Aokiji? And you're like, who? And I'm like, are you sure you're done?
Yeah, because I use the wiki. I use the One Piece wiki to tell me where the arcs begin, and I must have just looked at the anime arc or whatever, and I'm like, well, that's the end of it. Like that's the end. Because sometimes I try to read first, but sometimes I'll get a little ahead in my watching.
Yeah.
Which now I'm going to try to not do that anymore, because that kind of really sort of separates the two. And now that it's like different, because up to this point it really hasn't been different. It's just been like, well, there's been the arc, which will be longer in the anime, and then there's filler arcs in between, not so much like big huge fundamental changes.
Yeah, so for me, I tried to start mixing in the anime, because my thought is like, I'll read the chapters at night, and then during work, because I work from home, I'm like, I'll watch the episodes like in the background. But I found it to be so jarring to me. And then I'm reviewing, when I was doing my videos regularly, I was reviewing manga, and I was like, wait, did this happen in the anime or the manga? And I just said, you know what, forget it. So now what I do is, when I read it, most people will tell me a couple scenes that are dope, or I know scenes I want to see, and then I go watch those scenes in those episodes. But for me, it was really hard. Like, I tried to kind of maybe do both, and I couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, see, I actually struggle reading. Like, even when I just do audiobooks, like I still sort of struggle reading. And like Jimmy and I, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, Jimmy and I do also weekly host a Game of Thrones podcast where we like read the books and talk about the shows and all that, whatever. So over there, actually, one of the reasons I can manage it is the same reason I can do it here. Is for me, it is actually the connection of the differences between the two is how I can sort of remember like what's going on. If I actually just were to read it straight through, I just feel like I'd forget so many parts. So I like being able to watch it, and then I can be like, oh no, actually that's different there, and that's different there. It's kind of like the same thing in comic books, where I'm like, oh well, actually, like,
oh, you're the actually guy.
Well, I don't try to like tell everyone what it is, but it's just sort of how my mind works, probably from comics and video games and all that other stuff. So for me, that's what I've been doing. But yeah, it is by far the most different arc here. It's kind of funny actually the way it starts. So in the anime, by the way, there's G8 is in the middle of Skypiea and this.
I watched one episode of G8 and I said, I'm not doing this.
Oh, G8. So I will say, everyone said G8 is like the one. It's fun for what it is. It's the best filler arc, and that it like isn't just boring or bland, right? Like there's some pretty cool.
I'm not here for fun. I'm here for canon. That's what
yeah. Yeah. Well, I will say it does feel the most actually like all of the other arcs, all of the other filler, which I don't even like the Foxy's return. I don't even consider that filler. I just, like I don't consider it like a filler arc,
Right.
but the way they have it broken down kind of sucks. So, but I will say G8. So in the anime, when they leave Skypiea, they fall into G8. Actually, is
Right.
right. So they fall into G8, and then they still have to escape, and they actually kind of escape like the same way. They use the like big octopus like balloon to get up and out. So they still do actually fall. Like it is like the same kind of frame, because that's how this starts. Is they fall from Skypiea, with the octopus, and then they get going, and then everything kicks off. So it does still kind of start like the same way. But there are some moments in the manga that, like reading here, that they actually kind of pulled back into G8, which is kind of weird. Like one of the big ones, I think I had that pulled up too. I want to get that maybe pulled up here. Is where they talk about like fixing the Going Merry, like early on. I can get this pulled up, and like how like they want to take that money that they got from Skypiea and they want to fix the Going Merry. So they do it in G8. I actually think it's kind of cool, and I actually think it's a little bit cooler in the anime, like this specific moment, just because in G8 what happens is Commander Jonathan like takes all of their money and as like a way to try to lure them out, and so now they're thinking about what they want to do with it, and it's a little more extended. They do kind of like a flashback episode where they think about all like the cool adventures they had with the Going Merry. Here they do the same thing, but it was kind of cool too, just because it did feel like the Going Merry, like anytime they spend time talking about like the Going Merry as like a member of the crew, I'm always really excited, because it does, you kind of you're like remember about it, you think about it, and they're like, oh yeah, this is our home, this is where we've been having all these adventures on, and it's a piece of the crew.
It 100% is. And the Going Merry, I really want to get a statue of it. Like I have the Skull Knight statue for Berserk. The Going Merry is the statue I want, because I love all the characters, like for sure. But like it's hard for me. Like if you ask me my favorite One Piece character, it would change every day, like probably.
Yeah.
But the Going Merry is just so important.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, this is I will say this is an arc in which my least favorite character has pretty much always been Usopp. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm an Usopp defender. I'm one of the few.
But I will say I think Chopper has moved to my least favorite, and Usopp has moved to my first favorite. Part of Chopper's problem is Chopper in the anime gets real old real fast. Like just because it's this like high-pitched screaming and crying like all the time. And now that I have a baby, I'm like, I can't handle you, Chopper. I'm sorry. I can't do it, man. I got a newborn now. It's too much.
Wait till you watch Attack on Titan and you hear the English dub for Armin. Oh my god, it is awful. That's what it reminds me of. But the thing I love Chopper. So Drum Island is surprisingly high on my
I love Drum Island
list. Like it's S tier for me. I love that arc. However, the biggest disappointment of One Piece for me so far, being all the way up to just about to read post-war, is that Chopper is really relegated to the side. Like very much there. We know his backstory. He gets stuff. Like I'm not saying he doesn't do anything, but he never becomes like a feature again. To the point I'm at. I'm sure people know that there's other stuff. Don't spoil me, please. But it just doesn't feel like he's gotten enough attention. But it's tough. It's a big crew. There's a lot of personality. Everyone's got their own thing they're trying to get. I just wish that Chopper was featured more, because I just think Dr. Hiralock, all that stuff was phenomenal. Drum Island's sick.
Yeah. That's how I feel about Sanji. Sanji is my favorite character, and he's really remained my favorite character. And he actually gets a lot of screen time in the filler arcs in the anime, so that's one of the reasons I also like GA is one where he has his cooking is like one of the most important parts of the whole deal.
It feels like he's so powerful. It's just like Zoro too. Like Zoro and Sanji feel so powerful, but I feel like I haven't got to see them at their full potential yet.
You
And
see, you see Zoro for sure more. It feels like.
yeah, Zoro to me feels like, number two, a clear number two. Like I said he's I think I said he's Vegeta if Luffy's Goku. Like that's
Right.
my mind because he's kind of prickly. I mean, he's not nearly
Well,
as like
he is
edgy.
also voiced by Christopher Sabat in the anime, who
Oh
voices.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. It's so funny because I called Usopp Krillin, and people are like, "Oh my god,"
yeah.
like that's the same voice actor. I'm like, well,
And
somebody
that
made
threw
that
me.
connection.
That did throw me off at first. In my
Yeah,
like, I was like, I can't. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But now I think the further I've gotten into it. Because I was doing the dub for a while, or the
the
subtitle
sub.
version, and
Mhm.
every once in a while I will sort of switch back and stuff like that. And then when I look up clips for my reviews, I will. But now I more sort of, I feel like I more kind of listen to the anime than I
Mhm.
do watch it. And so I
Because
really
you're
focus
reading
on,
as well. Yeah,
yeah, because I'm reading it. I end up kind of listening to it, and I can't, like, listening to it in
you're
Japanese
gonna
is
get
not very
fried for saying you
it.
watched the dub. Just so you know,
Well, no, I've said that before, and people
they're
and
chill. Are they chill? All right, good.
yeah, I feel like people are. Yeah, I mean, I will say, hey, real quick. So because I've talked about this in every review, and I'm not doing like a regular review,
Mhm.
is the fifth intro, by the way, which is the first time it's not dubbed. That Funimation had dubbed every intro up until this point,
But not this
and
one.
this is the but this whatever intro number 5 is called in Japanese might be the best intro
Is it a
of the whole
slammer? I
thing.
haven't heard it.
Oh, it's like pure, it's pure
You know
fire.
what I say? I haven't heard it. I probably have heard it because someone probably sent it to me, but I don't.
Kokiro no Chizu, I believe, is but anyway, for
There
it's
ain't no
because
way.
it's only in Japanese now. But yeah,
And
I like downloaded it. I downloaded somebody like doing like a dub of it in English. I like
you
it's
love it.
as good. It's as good as we are. I mean, it's
Okay.
they're yeah. I don't know
I,
what
I
I don't know how I think they're up to, like, I don't know how many intros they're up to currently in One Piece, probably well into the 20s or 30s. Like
I'm
if you're
probably gonna.
reading like currently, but yeah, intro number 5 is pure fire.
Yeah, I'll have to jam out to it. I haven't. I don't think I've heard it, but I possibly could have. But hey,
Yeah.
Sanji and Zoro have like their little tag team in this in Long
Hmm.
Ring Long Land. I love that part of the game.
The groggy groggy battle, is that what it's called? I have it
I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I just remember really liking the fact that like they didn't want to work together, but then like when times got tough, like they did, but there's still like a competition between them. It's very good. Um, Zoro's kind of an asshole at times, and then you have
Oh yeah,
Sanji who's just, he's focused on Robin and Nami the entire time.
right.
Their dynamic's pretty enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so good, and then yeah, they have to team up, which is basically the way it goes in just about every arc. Is they just like clearly. I mean, this is really more so. It's not really. I guess you can't really call it Goku Vegeta, because Vegeta's always just like angry at Goku, whereas these two are both just angry at each other all the time.
It's like Tien and Yamcha. Like
Yeah, I guess that works a little more.
Yamcha was kind of a jerk off, and Tien was a lot more serious. I mean, Tien was never really mean though, but he was a little more serious around.
Yeah,
But their dynamic
certainly
works.
in Dragon Ball, in like original Dragon Ball.
Yes, yes. I think that their dynamic works really well though. I like whenever they're together. I liked all the games. I thought the race went on just a little too long from what I
Mhm.
remember. Um, but what about the boxing match? What about Afro
Let
Luffy,
me
dude?
get it. Yeah, let me just get a picture pulled up
I
of it
love this
here.
graphic you made, by the way. The backdrop,
Oh,
sick.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I try to make one a new one every time.
Yeah, it's dope, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I don't know how to feel about I don't know how to feel about Afro Luffy. I
I
think if
mean,
he'd, and again, watching the anime also sort of really amplifies the
it's
situation
so ridiculous, dude.
of Afro Luffy, because then they're like talking in that style, you know. I think it's also hard too, because some of the translations you find of this online, you know, that like might be it's hard. It's hard to tell exactly the way, but when they say things like it said the champs are blacks, or is it blacks are champs? It's like it's
Yeah,
ooh,
it,
that
it's
doesn't come across well.
it's definitely embracing a lot of stereotypes, right? Which can be somewhat problematic at times. But I think from what I've seen from people, is that they feel like it is like a positive embrace of
Mhm.
the stereotypes. So like people don't mind it as much. I thought the fight was pretty entertaining
Oh,
though.
it
I thought
is.
the
Yeah.
walkout like had a big fight feel, which was kind of neat. And because Long Ring Long Land is in this big epic battle, right?
Mhm.
It's like a way to make the battle stand out for being different. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to out epic like Skypia's final battle, probably, right? So like it gives it a little bit
No.
of a gimmick to kind of be like entertaining in its own way without having it to be this big, massive, epic thing. So I think it works really well, uh, especially because of how silly it is. But then obviously Aokiji comes in, and then you're like, oh, like this is a total like power
Oh.
level that we haven't seen.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
the thing I liked about just the Davy back in general, just I thought the Davy back itself, just the idea of it was cool because again, we came from Skypiea where we're dealing with like a god and all this stuff
Mhm.
that feels like way far away from, especially because, and this arc did it too, and we should talk a little bit about this. It's one of the things I continually love about One Piece is Oda will tease us with something that like we're not going to see for a long time,
Oh, yeah.
way down the line. I mean, like Jaya to me, I'm still like, man, I'm still like, what was going on there?
That
Because
is massive, dude.
because I get to Jaya for the first time, and I'm like, man, everyone's kind of like, like is he? I think it's just because like Bellamy, which by the way, we'll come back to,
Mhm.
as like a villain was just kind of like Luffy just one shots essentially, which I did like because it's like he just took down Crocodile. So like Luffy is clearly like a big deal, like the power scaling going along the way. But I mean, all of the stuff with like Shanks and who's going to replace Crocodile, and we're talking
Mhm.
about Blackbeard and Whitebeard, as in like Whitebeard is the most powerful entity that exists. Essentially, like he's the most powerful pirate since Goldie Roger. All of that stuff we've still yet to kind of touch. And it feels
Mhm.
like we're about to enter into like the next wave of the Grand Line. Everything's about to get bigger, bigger. And then we take a pit stop to Skypiea. But when we get to Skypiea, it is cool that Enaru, or Enel, however you want to pronounce it, in the anime they call it Enaru, but it's spelled, Enel.
Mhm.
It feels like, wow, that guy, if he were to actually hit the Grand Line, would be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and then he's going
But
off to this moon plate. You're like, "Wait, what?" Like
right, but he exists outside of it. So I did really kind of like that dynamic of
Mhm.
it because, like, did Luffy beat him because Luffy's just more powerful than that guy? Or did Luffy beat him because he's rubber
He hard countered him.
and essentially, yeah, he's just the perfect counter to him. And he did have other powers beyond just the electricity.
Mhm.
But so now we come back and it feels like a return to form. Like that's what I like about the Davy back, like the whole situation, because it just feels like true pirate nature, right? It's just like, oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna compete in these games, and once you agree to it, you have to do it, right? It's just
Yeah.
like pirate. It's like pirate law. It's like in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? When they parlay, oh, you have to honor it. It's pirate code.
Yeah.
Nothing,
Yeah.
nothing you can do. Like you know. So that's like one of the things I loved about like getting to the Davy back, because in theory you could challenge Whitebeard to a Davy back, and if he accepts, too bad. Like it's pirate
Yeah.
code, bro. So it also gives weaker pirates a way to challenge more powerful pirates
It
and
makes it more
increase their
interesting.
standing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's ways to climb the ladder, if you will. Yeah. I mean, every single time I read a new arc in One Piece, I feel like I learn more. And then I get like down this rabbit hole of like, okay, well, if Enaru is going to a moon, then is there a chance that we go to space at some point?
Yeah.
Like is the One Piece an alien?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things to think about.
It just
Um,
feels like more and more crazy.
it's insane. The world building is just absolutely ridiculous. And then like just hearing you talk, I think that like you have a really good mindset going into like what you're about to go into. And then as for me, I can't say anything because I've read it on, so I can't spoil
Right.
anything for you. But yeah, dude, it all matters. It
Oh, I'm
all
sure.
seems to
Yeah.
matter at this
Well, and
point.
there's still stuff we haven't even touched, like at the end of Logtown, right? I mean, you go back all the way to
Mhm.
Logtown, we see this guy Dragon. Like, what's his deal, right? We haven't even touched some of that stuff. We haven't seen Shanks in a really long time, even though like we're hearing more about it now. We get to a pretty significant point at the beginning of this arc. We get a tiny little segment. I mean, I think it's like actually like one chapter, and in the anime, it's like 3-4 minutes. I mean, it's just like the opening to an episode, which is Doflamingo and Bellamy.
Yeah, that
And
was a pretty
he
pretty
just
cool
takes Bellamy
moment.
out. We're like, whoa, was not seeing that. Like, was not expecting that.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, well, this is another super strong dude. And Bellamy, at this point, I thought Bellamy was pretty strong as well. And then boom, immediately topped. It's kind of like whenever Frieza. I know we keep talking about Dragon Ball, but it's just like my
Well,
favorite.
right. I think, well,
But like,
it's an anime that you and I have both watched, so it's easy for us to reference it with the other person
yeah,
getting it.
it's like when Frieza shows up after Namek and with Cooler,
Yeah.
and then Trunks just
Trunks.
destroys them, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like who's this dude? And
Yeah.
that's the same kind of vibe you get here because you're like, oh, Bellamy, that's in. Oh, Bellamy's gone. Oh, okay,
Yep. Gone. Dunzo. It's like, oh
Dunzo,
wow. Okay. Okay. Right. So
wild.
yeah, and then again, but again, that's a whole tease. Now we have this other guy,
Mhm.
Doflamingo, who's another high ranking, pretty
Cool character,
powerful,
dude.
pretty cool dude. So
Mm.
he's teasing you. And that's just one of the things I'm loving reading One Piece for the first time. And one of the things I think that makes it so engaging, at least here early on in my experience, because there's all these little things happening. And eventually, they're gonna pay off.
Yeah,
At the end
definitely.
of this, by the way, when is it Kiji? Is that's how I
Aokiji.
Aokiji? Okay.
Aokiji. Now someone's
Um,
gonna correct me, but that's what I was
I'm
told
sure.
is
I
Aokiji.
kind of think that's how they pronounced it in the anime. But
Yeah.
um him showing up to me was the thing that I think really kind of solidified this arc for me. And it's honestly kind of I mean, it's up there. It's gonna be this arc is up there for me right now.
Yeah.
Because one, it felt like we picked up Nico Robin and we really haven't gotten a lot about her backstory or obviously Alabasta had like she was very central, especially there at the end. We get to Skype and all we really got from her was, hey,
Huh.
like she's reading this poneglyph and like so clearly there's bigger stuff there, but now it's like she knows Aokiji, and Aokiji's like, yeah, I don't think he should be allowed to live. Because he's just like chill. I mean, he sees Monkey D. Luffy.
So let me
He's
tell
like,
you
I know you have a huge bounty, but you know what? You guys took care of Crocodile for me. I'm just gonna let you guys go. And then he's like, nah, that I think about it more. So it's really Nico Robin who he's more worried about.
this was the hook for me. This is where One Piece grabbed me, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta know." Like I gotta know because Nico Robin at this point, around this point, I think is when she became my favorite character because it was
Mhm.
Usopp, Chopper, Nico Robin, and for me, I had to know. I had to know. And plus the poneglyph, like I think that thing is so interesting. That is the piece of One Piece that kept me coming back and kept me coming back and back and back and back. And yeah, uh, like that little like interaction, you're just like totally taken off guard by it. Not to mention that this is the first time. I mean, Crocodile was obviously a tough fight and stuff, but like Aokiji's like on a different level than
Oh yeah.
Luffy. I mean, it's not even relatively close.
I mean, first of all, his power is just insane.
It's so
I mean, the
OP.
fact that he can just like freeze everything.
It's so
And
OP, dude.
yeah. He also mentions, which by the way is the live action actually spoiled this for me, is he talks about knowing Luffy's grandfather.
Yes, and that was
So,
one of the reasons why
but they don't go any deeper into that.
yes. Yes. That was one of the things that happened in the live action. I think it was right around the same time I read it. but I actually did not finish the live action because I didn't want to get spoiled on anything else. So I've actually still not finished the live action because of that, because
Yeah,
I want to
it's
finish the
good.
manga and get caught up. I have plenty
Yeah,
of
you do,
time,
but you do know. But I think you've hit a point where you know who Luffy's grandfather is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. And it hasn't happened, I don't think, in the manga, right? To this point where you're at.
No.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the first time you even get mentioned of Luffy's grandfather at all.
yeah. Gramps. Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't mention anything about who he is or his importance or how he knows him.
Mhm.
Which, having seen the live action, now sort of like, oh, now I really know why he knows him. Because
Yes, and
yeah,
it's very interesting because they're on very like, how did this happen? Like, how did Luffy get here? And how is Luffy on the other side of this conflict?
right,
Very strange.
yeah. Well, I know it's a
And
lot
you
of
also,
questions I
by
haven't.
the way, Ace is out there. We haven't said
Right.
Ace is out there somewhere.
Yeah. You do get a little bit of him in the manga. They have those like opening
Yeah.
chapter scenes where you show, but they don't, but he's still searching for Blackbeard. It's really all we have,
Mhm.
which I do love. I do love those, by the way. The little, like,
Yeah.
sometimes he's giving a little side story, other times he's just having fun, like drawing
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. And they are canon, so it's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the anime will sometimes take those. So there was actually like an anime episode that I think it must have been in Alabasta, because it happens in Jaya in
Mhm.
the anime. There
Yeah.
was when God, how am I blanking on his name? Buggy. When you get like Buggy's side story of how he goes and he meets
Yeah.
now I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, the girl who was super big and now she's super pretty. She ate the
I
devil
almost want
fruit.
to say Avienda, but I think that's a Wheel of Time character
That's
name.
the Wheel of Time character.
I can't remember right
You know
now.
who I'm talking about,
I
right?
know
She
you're
ate the
talking
devil fruit. Yeah,
about.
she ate the devil fruit, and she went from being like fat to beautiful.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, so how he meets her, and they turn that into like a whole episode
Alvida.
in
Alvida.
Alvida. Yeah, there we go. I knew it started with an A, but I couldn't remember
Yeah,
what it
I
was.
thought
But
Avienda. I don't know why.
nah, no. So yeah, so you do get those going on. But yeah, it's so, like, this is like another tease. So there's still like, if I I should try and I should have kept mark now, of like all of these moments we've had so far that have yet to even get paid off. Because in the manga at this point, you're well into like chapter 300. So people would have been reading this a chapter a week, 300 weeks. That's like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
you're
6
like
years.
in that's 6 years. There's stuff that's insane.
I mean, I'm in what, the 5 or 600s for post-war, and I mean, there's still a ton of stuff and more questions, way more questions, are even more confusing than what you have now. So there will be some payoffs though soon.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
We'll just
I'm
wait.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure it will all get paid off. I will say, just thinking about the live action real quick here. Now that I hit a point to where his grandfather had been teased, how do I feel about it? It's actually a good thing to think about. Now that I've seen the way it would have been done.
Yeah.
I guess I'd still need to see how he's revealed in the
Yeah.
manga, and to see like the significance of it, because I do think that the anime, or the live action, excuse me, did a pretty cool job of introducing him and making him feel important, because he did serve as this other foil to Luffy. But we still, even in the live action, haven't gotten like so much of Luffy's upbringing. Like, you just know who his grandfather is,
Yes.
but you don't know like how he became a young boy that was a pirate living by himself
Yeah.
on this island where Shanks is there, and then he decides to follow him. So there's still really none of that.
Yeah. Lots of that to come.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it'll all come. So, okay, let's dive a little bit more into Long Ring Long Land here. So first, let's talk about, I'm gonna blank on his name too, but the guy with Shelly, the horse as they call it, but really I guess you could kind of call it a giraffe. I don't know.
It looks like a
Uh,
giraffe.
it does. It does look like a giraffe to me. But Tanjit is his name, right? And anytime Oda does anything with like animals,
Mhm.
it's all he always just crushes it. Like the dog
I
in
said his
Orange.
wildlife is the best.
Yeah, his dog in Orange Town. Like anytime there's an animal, the bird. What was the? Oh God, I'm blanking on the name. The bird in Alabasta.
I can't
We
remember
thought
its name. I can't remember its name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, not Pell, but who was the? It was the squad of like ostriches or whatever. The super whatever squad.
I will never remember, but I do remember Laboon.
Oh, the whale. Yeah, Laboon was so
Laboon
awesome.
is the goat.
Laboon, yeah, Laboon was great. But again, there's another sad story. So anyway, so right, you have Tanjit, who is sort of like this key. I thought was going to be a bigger deal, kind of like right there in the beginning. They do expand his story a little bit more in the anime, and the way it kind of goes is a little bit. Well, I guess it's the same. Where he's writing it, and you're like, oh man, happy moment. They're finally reunited after all these years, and then boom, horse goes down, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, I was like, dude, we just... So it was kind of like a fun way to immediately make you be like, I hate Foxy.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think Foxy's a great villain.
Foxy's the funniest.
Yeah, because he does come across as a jerk a little bit. He does come across as, I mean, his power is actually pretty cool. The slow beam, or the Noro beam. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful thing that it feels like he could use even outside of like the Davy back, where he's just cheating and slowing them down as they're racing or when they're fighting. I mean, it feels like he should be much higher ranked than he is.
It also makes sense why he likes the Davy back, right? Like he can game the system. Like he's playing to his strengths, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Also, just like some of the gags are just hilarious. Like when he dresses up as a woman, and he's like, "Is your skull numb?" And Olivia's like, "What?" And he numb-skull. Like I know, stupid.
Yeah, it's great. He kind of felt that's another reason he felt like a return to the Grand Line after Skypiea. To me, right? Because he sort of felt like, I think he felt more kind of like Buggy a little bit.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Because so far a lot of the villains, it feels like we kind of bounce back and forth between like ultra funny, like we go like, are we gonna go with a funny villain, or are we gonna go with like a serious villain, or like a funny villain and a serious villain? Like Wapple's supposed to be a funny villain, although Wapple's my least favorite villain of all so far.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is unique because it's such a short arc. It's only like 18, 19 chapters or something like that.
Yeah.
And it is one that features a funny villain and Aokiji, which is a huge threat.
Right.
So it kind of like slams both in a very short amount of time, which is probably one of the reasons why this arc is like super important.
Yeah. Yeah, and his cast of characters too. Portia is great, and she basically wants him to steal Chopper just because she thinks Chopper's cute.
Yeah. He is cute.
Yeah.
To be fair.
He is. Yeah. So and I keep closing my tab here, but let me get it pulled back up, because I want to talk a little bit about the rounds. So like some of the idea of the Davy back just in general. Let's talk about that real quick. Is cool because you could steal a member of somebody's crew and they have to go.
This was a time where I started to think about it, and I was like, is Oda setting us up to lose a member of the crew? Like, is that what he's doing here? And it's kind of the first time, at least for me, where I was like, oh yeah, that's an option. That's an option that you could lose someone on the crew, but there's a million ways to do it. But like, I don't know, you never really think about that stuff, especially in like, an anime or a manga where things usually stick together for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to pull the differences up here real quick. So yeah, so they lose Chopper, and then he gets Chopper back, and then he takes the flag. In the anime, totally different. So in the anime, he gets after the end of the first round, Luffy frees Shelly from the Foxy Pirates instead of Chopper. So Chopper's sitting there like, what? And Luffy's like, don't worry, I'll get you back. Then they do so then it kind of changes, and then he gets him back. Then they take Nico Robin, because they do like another wave. They do another wave of things, and then it sort of still kind of ends the same with him taking the flag. So it's a little bit. There's a few more rounds, but he does at one point also have Chopper. He has Chopper and Robin, and they're both wearing like the masks.
Yeah,
like
so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous on the thing. But I mean, really, it's like the person. I feel like if I was going to take anybody from Luffy's crew, Nami seems to be like the most important. Although I don't know, he knows how good of a navigator she is.
Yeah,
Because
she's like,
Arlong made it seem like she was like the best. Like her navigational skills are worth like everything in this
yeah,
world.
she's the best. But it's subtle because like you wouldn't know that just looking at her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Nico Robin's obviously pretty important. I mean, they're all pretty important, but I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like if you had to rank them in terms of importance, like counting Luffy out, I would say probably. I mean, Nami has to be number one just because she's the navigator,
Yeah.
and she's supposedly this like super amazing, like best navigator to ever exist.
Yeah.
Then then I feel like Zoro just because he's the muscle and he's Ronoa Zoro and he's like so powerful. Robin is super important, but her skills are so specific
Yes.
that it doesn't really come into play often enough for her to be like ranked of major importance.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Zoro and Robin, I get the vibe that they're very much like about their own goal more than the crew. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true, but like I get that vibe a little bit more from them. Like they're more of like lone wolves, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. A few other differences here I just want to bring up. So after in the manga, it is Okiji who helps Tanjit and Shelly leave and return to their homeland like immediately, which then also kind of makes you feel good about the guy because he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna fight you guys, and he helps him, lets it go. In the anime, dude, there's this other like Ocean Dream arc that doesn't even happen, and then they literally just run to this like random island in which they meet all these like deserted people, and then Aokiji helps
Mhm.
them leave. So you also kind of lose a little bit
Yeah.
of like who he is as a person. So yeah, I like I said, and this has kind of been my theme for this episode, is this is kind of like the most disappointed I've been. I mean, I still overall liked it, and I think it's an amazing arc, but I would say this is the first time I've been disappointed in the difference between the manga and the anime.
Yeah. I don't know if the differences get more stark as it goes on. Like I have no
Right.
idea. But it could be that could be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, at least that's kind of where I'm at with it. But overall, I mean, I still really did like this arc. If I don't know where I'd rank it in terms of if I was ranking every arc I've read.
Yeah.
I still think Baratier is just my number one again because I'm just a Sanji homer, and
Yeah, Baratier is pretty great.
it's
I mean,
just so
all of
good because
Alabasta oof.
Alabasta
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? Like it's up there. Everything you're about to experience though is just pure gasoline.
is gonna right. That's what everyone says. Everyone's like, once you hit water 7 is when it seems like everybody really seems
It's insane, bro.
to like it because it feels like everything's just really gonna pick up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Literally just packed full of stuff. Thriller Bark, take a little deviation, but there's still some really important stuff there, and I like
Because
it.
that's like that Thriller Bark's it's like a spoof on like scary movies
It's
or
like gothic horror kind of thing, and like maybe a little bit of Frankenstein in there. It's really good. I think it's awesome, but it's your dip before we go woo, boom. Big payoffs. So, pretty much from here on out, dude, it's gonna get
it's gonna
dense.
get just
It's gonna
dense
get a bit
down.
dense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm excited. Well, hey, thanks for joining me today, Jimmy. I just wanted to
Of
hop on
course.
here, man, do a quick One Piece chat. We haven't done one in a while. And talk a little.
I got to get back to it. I haven't read.
You haven't done one in a while? Yeah,
In
yeah.
like 2 or 3 months. Been a
Yeah,
while.
well, it happens. It's so detailed though that it's like a lot, and that's why I feel like I never try to race a video out because there's just so many details. And every time I post one, people in the comments are like, "Oh, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this," and it's like it's just
Yeah.
so intense. It's just impossible, especially because I'm trying to cover both, and so it's just like it's too much to try.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing both. For me, I got to be in the mood for it, and like, there's no reason to force it. There's like for me, there's like no incentive to force feed it if I'm not feeling, because I really got to pay attention to everything, every little detail, which is great. But sometimes you're focused on other things. So, and also there's like what, a zillion more chapters to get caught up on. So it's not like I'm almost there.
I think they're in like, what are they on right now? Like chapter 1500 or something?
I don't know. It's a lot. I know I'm about halfway roughly.
What chapter? So I'm in like the 330s. What are you
I think
on?
I'm like in the 580s or 600s now. I can't really remember. It's been a while. But post-war, whatever that is, which is right before a pretty monumentous like deviation, I guess we could call it. Era, maybe is a better way of describing it. So,
okay,
gotta get back to it.
Hey, all right. Well, hey, Jamie, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be on here. You can check out Bend the Knee. That's our Song of Ice and Fire podcast. And I have Dudes Talking Manga. I haven't uploaded in like 2 or 3 months. I don't know when or if I will do it again. If I read post war and I got a lot to say, I'll probably post a video. You can check me out there.
Or you can talk about it with me in like 2 years when I get there.
That might be the solution.
That might be the solution. Awesome. All right. Well, hey guys. Yeah. So next time I will be back and I will be talking Water 7, which apparently is pretty peak as far as Jimmy over here is saying. So it's that, as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.